They ripped his ears apart, and he ordered them to mutilate his face. You wouldn't think that line came from a kid's cartoon, right? Well, that's exactly what happened in what many call the movie that scarred a generation. You might think of Coraline or Monster House when talking about scary kids movies, but what if I told you there were two others far darker and controversial? One of them was so violent it forced the British Board of Film Classification to rethink its entire system. These are the kids' movies that adults refuse to watch. The movie starts with a biblical style myth about a god who made all animals on earth. This god, however, punished the rabbits for multiplying and eating too much by making other animals hunt rabbits. We then transition to the present. Our main rabbit, Fiver, is small and anxious and has psychic visions. He sees blood and death flowing into their warren. His visions are graphic and the screen fills with blood. Right from the get-go, this film makes a statement: suffering is inevitable. His older brother Hazel believes him and tries to convince the Warren's chief to evacuate. The chief laughs it off and one of the officer rabbits threatens to kill and bite their neck off if they try to escape. Hazel, Fiver, and a small group of rabbits decide to sneak off on their own, abandoning safety for survival. They travel across the English countryside trying to find a new home. Along the way, the movie feels like a survival horror disguised as nature documentary. Death is constant and the group slowly thins out. One of their members is flattened by a car, and yes, you see the dead rabbit's flat corpse. And if you're an adult, you may be rubbing your eyes thinking, did I see that right? Just as you're trying to contemplate what you just saw, a hawk swoops in and kills another rabbit. Maybe the predator was inspired by this movie after all. They then meet a new group of rabbits who are suspiciously friendly given the themes of the movie so far. Any other kids movie would teach kindness to others, but not this one. Turns out the other rabbit group are laying traps so their owner can hunt them for meals. One of Fiver's closest friend, Bigwig, gets caught in a wire snare that strangles him viciously in a graphic, slow death scene where he's spewing blood. His final words aren't about forgiveness or love. He says, "Kill them." Like bro, we got a kids film where the moral of the story is don't let that shit slide and go spin the block. Even the visuals are disturbing, colourful and pretty but drenched and contrasted with fear and blood. They eventually find a farm with caged female rabbits and they hatch a plan for them to escape. You know the drill, any other cartoon this would happen but not this one. It's despair after despair after despair. Their plan to release the does fail and they are forced to retreat. This leads to the farmer shooting Hazel and he lets out a hideous scream of pain. Eventually, one of the rabbits from their old warren that they escaped from finds them. He recounts how Fiver's visions became true and humans came. At this point they really said fuck them kids because it shows a montage of the humans suffocating and killing the rabbits back at home. Their adventure continues and later on they discover another warren led by a totalitarian dictator named General Woundwort. The general of this warren orders the mutilation and dismemberment of a rabbit that tried to escape. You heard that right, in a kids movie. Another rabbit gets jumped by two patrol rabbits and they brutally drag him off. One scene that may go over the heads of kids is when one of our protagonists infiltrates the enemy warren as a new officer. General Woundwort tells him that if he wants a partner he can have his choice to whoever he wants because he's a high rank. Themes of using one's position and power to take advantage of females are prevalent as well as violence, stapling this movie as an absolute menace to society. Later on, our good guys wage a war with the general and he mangles one of the rabbits quite brutally, but eventually they lay a trap by releasing the farmer's dog onto the general and the dog tears through their ranks, and once again you see all the blood and guts. That's exactly why Watership Down isn't just unsettling for kids, it's haunting for adults. Because once you grow up, you start seeing the real horror. This isn't a story about cute rabbits on an adventure, it's a story about totalitarianism, survival, nature's cruelty, and how nature doesn't care who's good or bad, it just devours the weak and that happy endings do not come so easily. If Watership Down taught us that childhood movies could disguise war crimes as bunny adventure, Faust takes it one step further. It asks, what if you took a German tragedy about selling your soul to the devil and made it weirder with puppets? and market it to kids. Seriously, how does this have a 12 rating when the bloke literally has sex with a puppet lady, but it was actually a bloke wearing a disguise that tricked him? Like, isn't that just great? This is Faust, directed by a man who clearly didn't have a childhood. The film opens on a grey, lifeless morning in Prague. Among the crowd of commuters, a pale man emerges from the metro. Two strangers hand him a map with a location circled, but he shrugs it off and walks home. When he opens the door of his house, a black chicken bursts out. This movie is just creepy as hell from the get-go. Nothing from this movie should be for kids. A doll head gets crushed and he finds an egg in his loaf of bread. Like, okay. Then the lights die. Winds howl through the apartment and objects begin to fly. When the chaos finally stops, he looks out the window to see the two men staring up at him, one holding the chicken. When he returns to his table, the mysterious map has appeared again. The next day he follows the map to a decaying building just as another man sprints out terrified. Inside he finds a dusty dressing room filled with a burnt script, ritual robes and a fake beard. Sitting down he stares into the mirror and mutters to himself the words, Faust. Suddenly he's on stage. A play begins, but he rips through the backdrop and finds himself in a hidden alchemist's lab. With the help of an old spellbook, he brings a clay child to life, only for it to transform into his own twisted likeness, which he smashes to pieces. A marionette angel then warns him to stop, but a wooden demon urges him on. Soon, two familiar figures, Cornelius and Valdez, appear and hand him a briefcase of magical tools. Using them, Faust summons Mephisto and makes a pact with Lucifer, 24 years of pleasure and indulgence in exchange for his soul. Sounds like a fair deal if I do say so myself. From there, his descent begins. He drinks from a table that pours endless wine, watches a tramp throw a severed leg into a river, and later uses a key found in his food to open a locked storefront, only to be dragged back on stage by unseen stagehands. Now trapped between theatre and reality, Faust signs his blood pact, travels to Portugal and shows off his new powers to the king. When his miracle performance fails to impress, he casually floods the entire royal court, drowning everyone inside. He later then falls in love for Helen of Troy and they do the dirty deed, but she's revealed to be a demon dude in disguise. And when Lucifer shows up early to collect his debt, Faust panics and flees. He bursts out the theatre onto the real streets of Prague only to get hit by a car. Cornelius and Valdez watch, smirking as a tramp picks up a severed leg and walks away. The movie ends with a policeman investigating the crash, but there is no driver. What makes this film truly unsettling is how different it feels when you watch it as an adult versus a child. Faust is manipulated, tempted and puppeted by forces he can't fight or understand, and that hits a nerve. When you're older, you know exactly how it feels to be trapped by your choices, to wonder if you're wasting your life or if you've already sold your soul to your job, routine or desires. That existential dread, the idea that you could lose yourself piece by piece, is what makes Faust horrifying for adults in a way children could never fully grasp. Now after watching those two movies, Watership Down makes sense given its time period of releasing in 1978. It fits the zeitgeist of the era. Yeah, back in my day, we fought in wars and travelled through Dante's Inferno to get to school, so I can see its position in history. What I can't see eye to eye with is Faust. Like, this movie should not go in a 100-meter radius of any child. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on these two kids movies and which one you thought was the scariest. And if you liked this video, do slap the subscribe button as it really supports me. And remember, if you think you're down bad, at least you didn't f*** a puppet. I hope.